If you've been training for months and still are not seeing results, I can almost guarantee this is why. Most guys in the gym are training, but they don't actually know what they're training for. And that one thing is costing them months, sometimes even years of progress. Hey guys, I'm Cameron, welcome back. And today I'm breaking down the difference between hypertrophy and strength training because they are not the same thing. And confusing them is one of the biggest reasons people plateau. Number one, the goal is different. Let's start with the most basic thing. What is the actual goal of each type of training? So, strength training. Your only objective is using maximum weight from point A to point B. That's it. You're not worried about feeling the muscle. You're not worried about the pump, which everyone wants. You're not worried about the fatigue. You just want the bar to move. That's simple. So then we've got hypertrophy training. Now, the goal with this is a complete opposite. You're trying to create as much stimulus inside the muscle as possible. You want the burn or the pump, as everyone says. The goal is the fatigue because that's what causes the growth. Two completely different goals, two completely different approaches. So number two, how you actually lift is different. So this is where most people go wrong, and it's visible the second you watch them train. Strength training is mainly explosive. Think of a powerlifter deadlifting. They rip the bar off the floor, lock out, and drop it. No slow lowering, no controlled eccentric, because that's not the point. The point is to get the weight off the floor. Hypertrophy training, you're doing the same deadlift, but completely differently. You're pulling up controlled, squeezing at the top, and lowering slowly, because the negative portion of the rep, the eccentric, which is what it's called, is where a huge amount of muscle damage and stimulus actually happens. Okay, so number three, we have the rep range myth. Now, this is basically something I need to clear up because there's so much confusion around it. People think hypertrophy means 8 to 12 reps, which is mainly true, and strength means 3 to 5, which is also true. But that kind of thinking, it's developed a lot. I've trained across all rep ranges for muscle growth, heavy sets, 3 to 5, moderate hypertrophy, 8 to 12, and then I've gone for the higher ones, which are 15 to 20. All of it builds muscle. The key isn't the rep range. The key is the proximity to failure, where you're actually feeling the muscle work and you fail this rep. With strength training, you're keeping reps low to maximize mechanical tension and neurological output. So you're training your nervous system as much as your muscles. That's why powerlifters can be incredibly strong without necessarily being the biggest in the room. Okay, so number four, we have rest periods and fatigue. Now, this one's simple, but most people consistently get this wrong, and it does my head in. But, strength training, you need longer rest periods, 3 to 4 minutes, sometimes even 5 between sets. Now, you're probably thinking, why? Now, because you need to fully recover your nervous system to get max output again with them, lower rep ranges. So if you're resting 60 seconds between heavy singles, you're just fatiguing yourself. You're not actually getting stronger. You need to rest. So with hypertrophy, shorter resting periods, 60 to 90 seconds typically. You want to keep the blood in the muscle, keep the metabolic stress high, and try and get as much fatigue as possible by the end of the session. That's what drives proper growth with hypertrophy. So number five, we've got exercise selection. So with strength training, you're picking 1 or 2 big compound movements per session and repeating max effort on those compound lifts. Bench press, squat day, deadlift day, isolation exercises almost have a very little place because they don't really move the needle in total output. This should increase your injury risk where, you're working near your limit. So yeah. So with hypertrophy training, you're basically starting with the same compounds, to load the muscle and create that stimulus. Then you go and move on into isolation work later in that session, when the fatigue starts building. So, you've got chest press and you go into chest fly, stuff like that. This gets the muscle through every range of motion, the compound first, then the isolation to finish. That combination is just kind of how you fully fatigue the muscle and achieve maximum growth, which is what you want for hypertrophy. So the summary. So here's how to think about it simply. Strength training, compound movements, low reps, explosive effort, long rest, small exercise selection, not complicating it too much. Hypertrophy, you've got right rep ranges, controlled tempo, shorter rest, full muscle fatigue, compounds plus isolation movements to really train the muscles. Okay, so most of you watching this are probably training for aesthetics. You want to look good, build muscle and lose fat. So that basically means that hypertrophy is probably going to be the best one for you compared to strength training. And if you've been stuck at the same weight, the same physique, not progressing, there's a very good chance your training style is mismatched with your actual goal. So yeah, just go for hypertrophy, guys, stick with it, and then look at going into strength. So yeah, lift heavy, look aesthetic. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. You know, it's kind of just a bit of a kind of showing the difference between strength and hypertrophy. You know, I'm currently strength at the minute because I'm quite happy with the way my body looks at the minute, but I just want to get a bit stronger. So yeah, that's kind of difference. If you like more of this type of video, just be sure to drop a like and comment and let me know what you guys are currently training in the comments. I'd love to know. So yeah, see you in the next one.